This meeting to order. Brian,
We got it.
go ahead, Paul.
Do we have three?
Do we have enough members?
Right, we just need 3 for a quorum.
Okay, we got 3 now.
Right, and hopefully everyone else will show up. But Brian, if you could go ahead and explain the virtual rules of order.
Thank you, Anthony. This is Brian Yates with Swartz, Page and Harding. Welcome everybody to the Montgomery County MUD number 47 Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, May the 18th, 2021. As in prior meetings, I will briefly go through the remote meeting procedures and then perform a roll call. So to begin with, I need to remind everyone the meeting is being recorded as required by the Texas Open Meeting Act. Second, please remember to state your name before you speak, include the making of any motions. When you're not speaking, please be sure to mute your line. Third, we'll continue the practice of having a roll call to vote on each motion. After a motion has been made and seconded, please wait until you hear your name called and then respond with a verbal aye, a nay, or an abstention. Finally, we need to identify each person who's joining the meeting remotely this evening so that we can accurately reflect the attendance in the minutes of the meeting. I'll perform a roll call for the board members, followed by staff and consultants. When you hear your name or your company called, please respond by indicating that you're present in the meeting. Likewise, if you need to leave the meeting before it adjourns, please announce that you're doing so before you disconnect. Once I've completed the roll call for directors, staff, and consultants, I'll ask for any members of the public to identify themselves for the record. So starting with our board of directors, Anthony Cardell.
Present.
Paul Brown.
Present.
Laura Norton.
Here.
Cynthia Ullman.
She's a little delayed.
Okay, so she's absent right now. Jennifer Ronk.
I'm here.
Okay, we do have a quorum of our board present, so we will move on to the roll call for Woodlands Water staff. Jim Stinson.
Present.
Mike Mooney.
Present.
Maureen Bourgeois.
Present.
Shelley Lawson Kennedy.
Present.
Jeannie Scott.
Present.
Anyone else from Woodlands Water in the meeting? Okay, we'll move on to San Jacinto River Authority. Ron Kelly.
Present.
Ed Shackelford.
Present.
Chris Meeks.
Present.
Matt Corley.
Present.
Anyone else from the River Authority in the meeting?
Chris Clements with the San Jacinto River Authority.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we will move on then to MUD 47 consultants. Do we have any consultants in the meeting? If not, we will move on to members of the public. Do we have any members of the public present in the meeting?
This is Mark Unlin.
Arthur Bredehoff.
This is Antonio Paz with the Woodlands Land Development Company.
Okay, this is Brian. Anyone else that has not been called? Maureen, does that cover everybody who's logged in?
That's everybody.
All right, that'll complete our roll call. Anthony, I'll hand it back over to you to begin the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Number 2 is receive comments from the public.
This is Mark Unlin.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Last couple of months, there's been discussion about benches for past board members. And without getting into the details of the particulars, I kind of wonder how benches fits into the big picture. So I looked at the mission statement for Woodlands MUDs, and I'll read it to you. I know you all know it by heart. It says, manage our water with fiscal integrity, efficient business practices, responsive operations, infrastructure maintenance, community partnerships, and environmental stewardship. It's hard for me to see how benches installed on non-mud property fits within the mission. Spending resident money on non-mud projects is not consistent with your mission. This has nothing to do with the individuals being considered. It has to do with fiscal integrity and staying within your mission. So instead of spending resident time and money on benches and your time on benches or any other non-mission projects, please stop doing that and start pursuing things that are within your mission, such as deciding how much surface water we should be using so our ground doesn't sink. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Are there any other comments?
Yes, Mr. President, Arthur Bredehoff. I'm here tonight to talk about one of your missions, and that's about subsidence and aquifer levels. As way of background, Mud 47 has always been a leader on key, Mud 47 has always been a leader on key water issues, and aquifer regeneration and subsidence are key issues that impact our community. There's been much talk, petitions, resolutions, and letters to Lone Star and other organizations about their stewardship and the role they should play. Woodlands Water Agency and the MUDs have an opportunity, hopefully at the June meeting. I understand that SJRA will present a budget that is the 50-50 surface water, groundwater mix for the trustees to discuss. I would ask Mud 47 to discuss that tonight and also empower their trustee to lead on the issue at the June meeting so that we can have a good discussion on the impact of a 50-50 surface water, groundwater that will make on the aquifer regeneration and start to mitigate more of subsidence. SGRA has presented clear data that when it was at 65% surface water and to 35% groundwater, and also data on a 50-50 mix, that the aquifers were positively impacted, levels started to rise, and subsidence was mitigated. Thank you for your time and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Arthur. I'm not worried about our representative not taking the lead there. I think she's very, very involved in that and has taken that on. So thank you, Laura, for that.
Thank you. Cynthia has been added to the call. I just wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. Thank you, Cynthia. Welcome. So that was items 1 and 2. We're on to item number 3, consider an act on request for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Jeannie, do we have any requests tonight?
I don't have any, no.
Okay.
Anthony, this is Mike. I have nothing this month either.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then we will move on to the consent agenda. Did anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda, or would someone like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. Hearing a motion in a second, we'll go ahead and vote. So, Laura, go ahead.
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Cynthia?
Aye.
All right, as well. Motion carries, and we'll move to number 8. Receive the San Jacinto River Authority / Woodland Division report.
Good evening, directors. This is Matt Corley with the San Jacinto River Authority. I'll call your attention to page 19 in your report. That's the Woodlands monthly operation report with April data. I'd like to highlight the blend ratio between groundwater and surface water fiscal year to date September 2020 to April 2021. The blend ratio is 48% groundwater to 52% surface water. I'll be happy to answer. Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Yeah, Matt, I don't have a question about that. What I would like to ask to be added to this report is a page or column or whatever on the growing financial gap that's been created over the last few years in total by our dispute among GRP participants who don't want to pay current prices. And that should probably include as an entry, how much do we have outstanding on the accrual side? Assuming it is accrual, I don't know whether we've paid them yet, but the legal fees, okay? When last I heard, that number was somewhere above $10 million. I don't know whether that's a real number or just a rumor, but I think it's really important that we start to monitor that.
Could I discuss that with SRA staff? My thoughts are
absolutely.
Maybe to provide a supplemental document to the report or the information at these meetings. But that information is available. Yes, sir. We can get that, and whether we add it to the report or not.
Okay, great.
If nobody else has any questions, I know Mr. Kelling has some updates regarding GMA 14, but I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the monthly operations report.
Thanks, Matt. And I know some of y'all, like Laura, are very active in this, and this is old news. But the proposed DFCs are out. They're under a 90-day comment period, which ends in July. Lone Star is going to supposedly select either the June 7th, 8th, or 9th for a public hearing. And I know it's on your agenda to have a resolution, and resolutions and letters and other written comments are great, but also showing up at their doorstep and making comments to them in the public hearing is sometimes more impactful. So as soon as we find out the information of when that public hearing will be held, we'll forward it to Jim for distribution to all members.
Directors, good evening. This is Ed Shackelford with Saint Lucie River Authority. Under the GM's report, there is a paragraph description about the Trinity River water option. If you take a look at that, we're happy to give you a full presentation, or you can rely on that summary. But we did do a full presentation to the trustees about the option contract and what contract deadlines are looming. And we would appreciate any comments from your board to the SRA board by July or August to identify your preference on whether there is a desire to retain the Trinity River water option contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I was curious on the SJRA board. I know there's a Cooper and Cambio recently left, and were they replaced?
One director has been replaced. The lady's name is Stacy Buick. She's a governor appointee, and she's filling an unexpired term through October with the anticipation the governor would reappoint her. There is still one vacancy as of today.
Okay, so how many does that make on the SJRA board now?
6.
6, okay.
Hey, Ed, could you just, at a high level, just quickly summarize the implications of this decision?
Sure.
Are we going to have a vote on this today? Are we being asked for a vote?
No, sir. It's information only.
Okay. Could you just, at a high level, I think it's important for all the, for everybody to understand it. specifically on the option and what happens to the option and what it means for the future.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple of slides.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Is it in slide mode or? Because I can't see it at all.
Yes, you're doing good.
Okay, so there's the opening slide. The second slide gives you the basic issues. TRA option is a 50,000 acre foot per year water supply. It applies, or it's part of the long-term strategy for providing water supply to Montgomery County. As you know, Montgomery County is growing, population significant increases, and I have a slide that will show you volumes in just 1 minute. So here's what's been projected through the Region H planning group. I believe you all have heard about Region H. The population projections come from the Water Development Board. And so if you look under the about the 5th row down under municipal, you can see the population growth starting in 2020 going through 2070. The number that's circled in red is acre feet per year of water consumption or anticipated water consumption. So to give you a point of reference, Lake Conroe, both the San Jacinto River Authority water rights and the City of Houston's water rights yield approximately 100,000 acre feet per year. Depending, if you look at the DSCs that are proposed by GMA 14 at 97,000 acre feet, if you add the two together, you come to a yield of roughly 200,000 acre feet. And as you can see from this chart, in 2015, the estimated demand, water demand, is right at 200,000 acre feet. So this water is not needed until 2050. It'd take about 10 years to build the canals and pipelines and pump stations, and it'll take a number of years to get interbasin transfer permits and kind of get the engineering and some of the technical stuff done. This is how water would come across from the top of Lake Livingston into the top of Lake Conroe. And you can see the different colored lines. These are the different potential routes that would be considered. It's firm yield water. And the estimated construction cost is, upwards of $200 to $300 million. So
And those
here's
are
what
$20, $30.
What's that?
Are those $20, $30?
Ron, are those current dollars or forecasted dollars? I haven't heard, Paul. I'll have to get that answer.
That's fine.
Those are current dollars.
Okay.
So, project 3% increase annually until that time, and we could be higher numbers.
Got it.
We're
Thank you.
currently paying approximately $250,000 annually to maintain this option contract. We've seen that one before. Okay, so here are some deadlines. By the end of this year, our contract requires us to create a service area agreement with the TRA, initiate interbasin transfer permitting, and it's estimated between 1 to 2, and Ron has suggested that it might even be more than that because we're dealing with lawyers and the state, and it might take a while. Our contract also requires by April of 2028 to convert that service area agreement to a water supply contract and then start paying an annual reservation fee of almost $1.5 million. So, and remember, we don't use the water till approximately 2050. So here's what we think the cost of that maintaining that contract is. Raw water cost roughly 2 to 5 cents per 1,000 gallons, and increase in GRP rate from now through 2027 1 cent per thousand. So on an average home of 10,000 gallons, you're paying 10 cents per month. And then after 2028, roughly 2 cents per thousand gallons. And again, on a 10,000 gallon usage per month, that's 25 cents per house, per connection. And so, you know, we're asking if you all want the River Authority to be forward thinking and long range planning for Montgomery County's future water needs. And so we will be asking the board, the San Jacinto River Authority Board, for, you know, we're either going to be recommending to continue the contract and push forward, or recommending termination of the contract, subject to comments that we receive from the MUDs out of the Woodlands and other stakeholders that would benefit from this. So that is the quick presentation of the option contract. And we would encourage either letters or appearance in person at the board meeting indicating your all's preference. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So is their next meeting Thursday?
The next meeting is the 4th Thursday of May, which is the 28th, I believe.
Oh, no, the 27th, when the Court of Appeals is on having a YouTube channel.
Yes, same day, same day.
Okay.
But,
All right.
What was that? What
but
was
we're
that date
talking about
again?
July or August, no later than August.
And what was that date again?
Hang on just 1 second, Paul. I've got to get to my calendar. I don't have the date memorized.
Okay.
It would be August 26th at the very latest, or July 22nd.
Okay. And Ed, if I recall from the Woodlands Water meeting, you guys recommending this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other questions?
And just as a matter of clarification, we're presenting this to the trustees and all of our MUDs this month. I think at some point there would be over either June or July, some benefit to having a unified message again from our group on this topic to go to the San Jacinto River Authority. So this is your first look at the issue. We'll probably visit about it again next month, and then no later than July, try to have a unified position on this.
I'm a little confused. What does that mean, a unified position? Are we going to be asked to vote yes or no on this, or
yes,
is this a religious event?
Yes or no?
Okay, so the boards will be asked to vote yes or no. Okay.
Thank y'all for your time.
Well, I have a quick question about the GRP aspect. If we
Sure.
already have clients, I say we, they're not my clients, but cities aren't paying the GRP that they're supposed to. Is there a way that, are you going to move forward using that memorandum that the SGRA has had a hard time enforcing, or are you going to come up with a different way to make sure that the people that are paying their bills on time like they're supposed to aren't incurring these future costs as well?
Ron, you want to help there? Because I'm not sure I have a complete answer.
It will continue like it is until some judge tells somebody that they need to start paying their bills. And that could be 5 years from now, it could be 10 years from now. We don't have an answer for that.
The reason why I bring this up is I saw that there's a SJRA part that's going to see increase, and then there's the GRP.
Right.
Why are there two pieces? Why isn't it just all SGRA?
Well, the SGRA that you saw there was the raw water rate. And so we sell a lot of raw water to people like Exxon and Chevron that's not any part of the GRP. And so that's the SGRA part, that's the raw water. How that feeds into GRP is that we buy raw water from the SGRA to treat, to put into the GRP program. And so
Right.
that's how it, I guess, pardon the pun, trickles down. But everybody will be paying, well, all the rates will have, the raw water rate will be consistent. Then that trickles down into the GRP. Yes, you have some people who are not paying their full GRP rate. Is that going to stop anytime soon? No. Is that going to stop somewhere between 5 and 10 years from now? We certainly hope so. But that's the best answer I can give on that right now.
Well, just my thought on this is that we're the conservator, one of the big conservators of the future of water in the county right now, right? And we have a chance to make sure that, I'll be dead, but when there's a need for water, okay, north of us of significance, that it's there for the new residents. And quite frankly, quibbling over the small percentage that Conroe, and I guess is Magnolia still involved in this? Are they paying
Yes.
their rates or not?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's, it's one of those things that you need that trust that it'll work itself out over time, and that this is the right thing to do for the community at large in the future. So.
Oh, I mean, my question was just like,
I get it. I do understand it.
Yeah.
No, we understand your question. We just, I can't give you a definite answer of when we're going to get 2 people to completely start paying their full bill, and when we're going to get the other 2 people to pay their bill, period. I don't have an answer for that.
Well, I think maybe misunderstanding how this operates. Like you said that the cost to SGRA is going to be 2 cents per for raw water, and that of course means the GRP is going to have at least that or an exact amount of increase, right? Like those costs are going to be 100% incurred by SGRA to be shared by everyone that gets water from SGRA, or is the GRP responsible for more than companies like Exxon that you mentioned?
No. Well, I mean, Exxon and Chevron right now buy about 8 times more water than the GRP participants do. If that gives you a scale, okay? They buy a whole lot more water than is even part of the GRP program. So when you look at it from that point of view, they're going to be paying a larger share of this right now in their use than anybody in GRP is going to be paying.
Yeah, it's helpful.
But the bottom line is this is shared across all the customers.
All raw water customers, right?
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ron. So here, no further questions. We'll move on to SGRA budget.
Sorry about that. Forgot to unmute myself, but good evening, everyone. If you can, please let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it.
All right. So this is that time of year that we bring the draft proposed budget to the MUDs for discussion. There's no action items that are needed tonight. Just as an FYI, we present the draft budget in May, discuss, answer questions in June. In July, the MUDs director trustee had a vote in the August trustees meeting. So there's a good period of time here for questions, answers, going back and forth and whatnot. So tonight's the initial draft of the budget. So a couple things before we get started. First is there's a package on the Google Drive called the FY22 Woodlands Division Budget Package. That package has an executive summary, this presentation, And then the line item of the various budgets, the O&M budget, R&R budget, the bonds and future facilities. So all the information is on the Google Drive. This presentation is a high-level overview of that information. So if you have questions, ask. I do want to let you know a few different things. One is that the GRP Review Committee on Monday will hopefully vote on their FY22 budget and rate. They have asked to reduce the rate from a 19-cent increase to a 15-cent increase, so a 4-cent reduction. If they do approve that reduction in the rate, then our budget, which is based on the higher rate, will be reduced, meaning I will need to reissue the draft budget with the new GRP rate in there. At the end of the day, it's a net effect. I don't think anything in this presentation really is going to change except for the GRP rate itself. So. The second item is the last item is this presentation is actually kind of flipped. So normally what we would present at the end is actually at the beginning, and the stuff at the beginning is at the end. That's done in case we get to the first few slides and there's no questions, or if you want me to stop and not go through the rest of the detail, we can do that at that point in time. But are there any questions before I begin? Okay. So the takeaway from everything that you haven't heard just yet is that demand trends are flat in the Woodlands and have been for a number of years now, somewhere in the 2 to 3 year range. So over the first, the growing part of the Woodlands up until roughly 2010-ish, 2015-ish, there was a growth in the Woodlands. And so you saw demands on water and wastewater going up. Since then, you have not seen demand trends going up, and they haven't really gone down any much over the last few years, so they are flat. So we're also budgeting a 65% groundwater, 35% surface water blend ratio. We are proposing a 5% water and wastewater rate increase, which is mostly due to the ongoing renewal of the aging water and wastewater infrastructure, as well as increasing the R&R funding by $500,000.
And Chris, that's based upon 65-35, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then, of course, the O&M and emergency reserves are fully funded.
Also, if that ratio is changed, isn't the surface water more expensive to us?
Surface water is more expensive. What kind of happens is it's when you're doing the blending from the 65-35 to the 50-50, the pass-through rate changes. But since it is a pass-through, there's just a very little bit of actual change in the Woodlands O&M budget with that pass-through. Now, if you're talking about basically leaving this the same, just taking it up to a 50-50, taking additional surface water, then yes, the surface water does have the additional charge on top of it from the GRP division. And just for the difference here is, you know, today this is the Woodlands budget, which has a component of a pass-through, a component of the GRP fee. Anything additional, even though if we go to 50-50, there is an impact on the Woodlands division budget in terms of well oil changes, alkalinity adjustments, so on and so forth. There is also the GRP cost, which is the additional surface water fee.
All right, thank you.
So this slide is nothing but the proposed and previous wholesale water rates. So what you're seeing here is the last 5 years of wholesale water rates. And then of course on the far right is the proposed FY22. So in FY22, we are proposing a 5% rate increase, and which equates to 11 cents per 1,000 gallons. As you can see there in FY18 and 19, there were a couple of years with no rate increase. And of course there was years with a rate increase. Moving to the next slide, looking now at the wholesale wastewater rates, same setup as the water side, last 5 years, along with the proposed FY22 wastewater rate increase, which is proposed at 5% rate increase, which is 23 cents additional per 1,000 gallons. Then finally is the GRP budget items. So kind of like we talked a little bit earlier, on this slide, you see 3 rates. So at the very bottom in the light blue, you see the GRP fee, also known, I think, on the bills as a surface water conversion fee, also discussed as the blended water fee. All three of those fees are the same, and they're right now on the bottom right, you can see $3.07. If the GRP review committee does adopt a different rate than the two numbers you see above there, the 292 and the 334, if they do reduce that by 4 cents, that $3.07 will change to $3.03. So how this works is the GRP fee in the light blue, that's what the Woodlands Division charges to the MUDs, and the MUDs pass along to the residents. The two numbers you see above that, the groundwater pumpage fee and the surface water rate, that's what GRP charges the Woodlands Division, and the Woodlands Division pays GRP. So there is a difference there. And how we get the $3.07, as you see here, is we take the blend ratio of, let's say, 65-35, 65% groundwater, and we just take 65% of the $2.92 and then 35% of $3.34, and then we get the blended fee.
Chris, do you have the number in your head for 50/50?
So are you speaking of additional surface water to bring us up to 50/50?
Yeah, what would the GRP, what does your 307 go to?
So when Ron had previously presented it based off of FY21 rates, I believe that was $3 per month. Ron, correct me if I'm wrong.
Per household.
Per household, thank you. No,
Okay.
very good known. However, right now we do not have those numbers for FY22. The review committee needs to review those numbers, approve those numbers, and there's some work effort on our side before we can present that information.
Okay.
Is the review committee this Monday coming up?
Yes, ma'am, May 24th, 11:30 at GNA.
Thanks.
There's also, if you'd like, there's it's webinar, so you can view it online.
Super.
So at this point in the presentation, everything before was the punchline, if you will. Everything after this is just kind of the steps in the process to get us up to presenting the budget and developing a lot of background information. But I'll ask you, if you want me to proceed, I can definitely run through the rest of the presentation, about 15 minutes or so. Or if you're good, you can review it in the packet. And if you have any questions, let Jim know, or bring him next month to the MUD meeting. So would you like me to continue, or are we good here?
I'm good.
I think it's only Cynthia's first rodeo, so everyone else has been through this a few times. So I think we understand how it works. So Cynthia, if you don't want us to go through it, like Chris said, we can give you one-on-one later on if you'd like.
Of course. So Cynthia, it's your call. What would you like?
You're on mute, Cynthia.
There it is. Sorry. No, don't go through it just for me. I'll be okay on this.
Okay. Well, this information is in your on the Google Drive. And if there is any questions that y'all come up with after reviewing the detailed information or anything else you got, please reach out. We are asking all questions to go through Jim so he can just put them all together and respond at one time. So Cynthia, if you'd like some one-on-one information on the budget, please reach out, let Jim know, and we'll definitely set something up.
Okay, thank you.
And I thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Just getting my spot here on the budget. Okay, so that concludes number 9. We'll move on to item 10, receive the attorney's report.
This is Brian. Thank you, Anthony. On the attorney's report, legislative session update, we are down to the last 2 weeks of the session. So it's pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week right now through the end of the session. Number of bills are making their way through committees and going to floor votes, and other ones are getting killed. So if there's particular ones that you're interested in, I encourage you, as I mentioned last month, go to that bill tracker list, and it'll take you through the hyperlink to the Texas Legislature online. And there they keep a real-time update on the status of each bill that's been introduced. So that will give you a quick update on any bills of particular interest that directors may have. One bill I've been bringing to board's attention this week is House Bill 1118. That bill has finally passed both chambers. It relates to cybersecurity training. And it provides some clarification from the original legislation that was passed in 19. You may recall we talked about the original bill at the time that it was passed, and that the language in it seemed to indicate that directors that did not have access to a computer system or database of the district that was susceptible to a cybersecurity threat would not be required to complete the training. And then the Texas Department of Information Resources, that was tasked with implementing the cybersecurity legislation, came out with an extremely broad interpretation of the legislation that essentially required all government officials, including MUD directors, to complete the training regardless of whether they had any access to a system that was at risk of a cybersecurity threat. The legislature has now gone and overrode that interpretation through House Bill 1118. The language in the new legislation states that if a local government officer or elected official or employee has access to a local government computer system or database and uses that computer to perform at least 25% of their duties, then they're required to complete the training. For the lion's share of MUDs, that's going to take those directors out of the compliance requirement, the annual compliance requirement. The Woodlands is a little unique, as it is in many respects, with the number of districts and staff and whatnot. Staff, of course, is required to complete the training each year. That does not change. But for directors, it's a little unique because we do have the Google Drive. We do have electronic distribution of board packets as well as supplemental materials. So it's a bit gray as to whether or not directors in the Woodlands would be subject to this requirement. Do particular directors have 25% of their duties associated with accessing that Google Drive or other electronic systems of the district to be able to review materials? I think the conservative approach is that directors should continue, and the Woodlands should continue to complete the cybersecurity training on an annual basis, unless a particular director is confident that they are not using a computer system or database for at least 25% of their duties as a director. If you on an individual basis can make that determination, then you would not need to complete the training. I'll reiterate that the training requirement is director based. It's not a district compliance requirement. It's a director compliance requirement, similar to the Texas Open Meetings Act training and the Public Information Act training that you're required to do only one time when you first become a director. This is specific. The cybersecurity training, of course, is an annual requirement, but it's also just specific to directors. I'll also mention again that the training requirements for cybersecurity do not have a penalty component for non-compliance. Certainly don't encourage folks to not comply if they are subject to the statute, but that is something also just to keep in mind as far as what the ramifications are of not compliance. Is there are no penalties or fines associated with that at this time, as far as the current bill and the original legislation. So bottom line is default, go ahead and complete the training, but and provide your evidence of compliance to Shelley, and she'll put it in your file. But if particular directors believe and are confident that they don't fall within that 25% parameter in the new legislation, then you would not be obligated to complete the training. So happy to answer any questions if you have them. Otherwise, that will conclude my report for this evening.
Thank you, Brian. We'll move on to item number 11, receive staff information on how the AMI service module and information will change/benefit customers and staff.
This is an agenda item that Paul Brown had requested last month. So Maureen has prepared a summary that she'll go through. I think it's on page 25 in your packet.
Yes, this is Maureen. There's many benefits to the AMI project, mainly benefits to the customers. There's a portal called WaterSmart where customers can access their hourly usage and determine where their water usage is coming from, which is already proven to be pretty handy, even though not quite 50% of the project has been completed so far. Operational efficiencies internally. This will eliminate the 10 to 12 day meter reading cycle that we go through every month. So it'll be more accurate. Customers will have a 30-day bill cycle instead of, maybe a 5-week or a 3-week. The staff can pull the reads in minutes instead of waiting for them to be read in the field. Office staff also can close work orders now where it'll eliminate truck rolls in the field. All we need is the read for new services, for example. The fiscal benefits, and hopefully this will capture lost water revenue from the inaccurate manual read meters right now. That will remain to be seen in the future. We can also catch the major reverse flows we already have, and we can go repair those meters immediately instead of waiting for a 30-day, next time we get a manual read. So that's already proven to be a benefit. And we can also access the 96 days of hourly usage to help customers figure out where their high bills are coming from. So this is a summary. There's probably benefits we haven't realized yet. So that will remain to be seen.
And I'll add to that, the township and Bob Daly hosted a training class for how to read your AMI web portal, your interface, last Saturday. I don't know if they're going to do it again, probably. It was very well attended. I don't read my township magazine, but it was, Bob Lux told me about it, and very well attended, and everyone seemed to like it. So that's it.
I guess I have one question. I recall when this was all being proposed that one of the functions that I've seen was the ability to remotely turn on someone's water and turn off someone's water at a residence. Was that functionality not in this package, or have we decided?
That's actually a different meter than what we're putting in. We don't have the ability at our desk to shut somebody's water off or on. So no, that's not.
Okay, so we didn't purchase that.
No.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
So thank you, Maureen. Here are no further questions. We'll move on to 12. Consider an act on providing storm drain markers to reduce waterway pollutants for community volunteer projects.
This is an item to demonstrate your support for the volunteer efforts and groups that want to put these markers in the neighborhoods. We've had an increase in requests. Used to be most of the requests came to our office and Mike would coordinate these, but the Woodlands Township has had a large number of requests. So I'm just asking that you approve allocating $1,000 out of your your storm sewer maintenance budget to purchase markers and adhesives to put on storm drains in your mud, if we have a request from a volunteer group.
I'd like to make a motion that we do that. I think it's a wonderful program.
I'll second that.
All right, so a motion and a second. I guess I can't do the all in favor yet, so we'll say Paul. Go ahead.
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Cynthia,
Aye.
vote aye, so motion carries.
I,
Thank you.
I do have one question to Jim, and that is, I understand why we're doing it. I think it's a good idea. Is this in fact a, a significant issue for us, or is it a minor?
It's minor, but it sends the right
Okay.
message. It's really about sending the right message to the public.
Yeah, great. I think that's a great idea.
And our friend Neil Gaynor, president of Mud 6, reports that our water quality in our watershed could improve, and maybe people not throwing dog doo-doo bags in the storm sewer could be a step in the right direction.
That causes more problems than people think.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Could outlaw dogs.
So we'll move on to item number 13, consider an act on a resolution regarding the desired future conditions for aquifer management in Montgomery County.
This item was on a number of MUD's agendas last month, and we put a pause on acting on it last month in order to give us a chance to put something together that the trustees could approve and maybe other entities. So I know Laura and a number of directors really worked hard on getting this wording put together that could be supported by our MUDs, the trustees, and potentially other MUDs outside the Woodlands. So Laura, if you want to make some additional comments on this.
A lot of time was spent on this guy. And it is general. Hopefully we can get some people in East County and cities, groups around here to do the same kind of resolution. So I'm sure you guys have read it, and I'll make a motion that we, what's the word, pass the resolution for our statement on the desired future conditions before the Lone Star Board, that we pass that.
Yeah, I think it's important that we plan for the future, so I'll second that.
Hearing a motion in a second, we'll go ahead and do the vote. Paul?
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
And Cynthia?
Aye.
Aye. So passed unanimously. Thank you. Item number 14, receive update on proposed FM 1488 development project and authorize any action necessary in connection therewith.
I don't have any update tonight. Is Antonio still on the line here?
Yeah.
Antonio, do you have anything to report on this item?
Hi, good evening, directors. I specifically answering Jim's question, no, there's no specific update for 1488 commercial tracks. Although I do have just a notification to the board that come next meeting, we will present a new content document filled out as provided to us by Schwartz, Page and Harding. And we'll be also ready to make a presentation for development in that part of the Woodlands, but not at this meeting at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Paz. We'll move on to our next item. Consider an act on potential funding partnership with MUD 67 on the Bear Branch, Panther Creek, Research Forest Drive drainage improvement concept.
Last month, I presented a conceptual drawing to the board regarding the areas that are going to be improved and showing in particular areas for MUD 47, MUD 7, and MUD 67. I just wanted your feedback on the potential partnership or funding partnership with MUD 67 on this project. We did get approval from the Texas Water Development Board to as a funding project. They're going to give about 1.1 million in grant. About 10 million will be offered up at a zero interest loan for 30 years. I don't have really anything for you to act on tonight. I will be bringing back to your MUD and others some suggested participation, financial participation next month with for you to consider. And just appreciate you considering this. I think it's going to be a big benefit. We know to Research Forest Drive, the high school area, the soccer area, and a large portion of the residents in MUD 47 along the south side of Bear Branch.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. You said we, right? This, with quotations marked here, we can mean a lot of things with this district. So when you say we, is it MUD 67? Is it Woodlands Water? Who's going to be incurring the debt on this?
MUD 67 has taken the lead, and they've submitted the application, which got approved through the Texas Water Development Board. But the benefits to this are obviously far-reaching beyond MUD 67. So right now, the obvious benefits are to MUD 47 residents, to MUD 67 residents, and to MUD 7 residents. But in my opinion, there's also obvious benefits to the community that travel Research Forest, in particular the fire department, emergency services, and law enforcement. So there will be ongoing discussion with the township and the county to see about participating.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
So I just have one question, Jim. At what point will you have a number for us?
We should have a number next month or the month after.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And we'll move on to 16, receive the general manager's report.
A few items to highlight from our trustee meeting. Paul Brown had suggested that we look at hiring a consultant to make sure we didn't miss any opportunities to get any funding from the American Jobs Plan. The trustees agree with that, and I'm moving forward with the River Authority and others to look at hiring someone to help us make sure we get in the front of the line for any funding that might be available from that plan. We did get an update from Neil Gaynor regarding the San Jacinto River Regional Flood Planning Group and the efforts to get seated on that with the new upper watershed voting position. There's been, I guess, some frustrating delays in that. Now it's reported they're going to do interviews. They all of a sudden have multiple applicants. I think it was 4 or 5 is what Neil reported. So continue to follow that and encourage your support to get Neil seated on that new voting position. The monthly report from HARC and the consortium report is in your packet if you have questions on that. There's also an update on the trying to address concerns of residents regarding AMI poles in the neighborhood over by Woodlands Parkway and Lake Woodlands Drive and Slash Pine. We did find 2 alternate potential locations would be on Woodlands Township Park property, the one part Forest Gate Park and Sawmill Park. So we're vetting those options to see if it makes sense. More on that next month. We did execute the interlocal agreements with the various MUDs on the Spring Creek Drainage Detention Improvement Project. Ed Shackelford went over the Trinity River Authority supply contract that we talked about earlier. Chris Meeks also gave a report on the preliminary engineering report that's been finalized for the Tin Man. The trustees, after some discussion, requested that SJRA work with their consultant to fine tune the options there and bring those back to the trustees, but they also approved using an additive, chemical additive as a test to try to reduce the odors coming from plant 1. So the River Authority will be working with that option as well. There's an update on our social media public information outreach in your packet. And Maureen also provided a summary of some Woodlands Water Agency operational efficiencies that she's implemented over the last few months. So take a look at those. And that concludes my report, and I'm available for questions.
I have a question, Jim. One of the things we also discussed is the, whatever you want to call it, technology intrusion plans or technology intrusion audit. A number of years ago, on my suggestion, we did an audit. At the time, we found some things that needed to be improved. Given what happened on the East Coast with gasoline in the last week and a half or so, I really want to recommend that we bring that audit back as a formal occurrence, along with our annual financial audit. And I think we also need a process out there for us to at least be in a position, or actually have a process where someone on staff or those auditors also have the ability to comment on our principal outsourced partners. Okay, so that would be San Jacinto's plan, and anybody else, technology companies, whatever, so that we have those things reviewed and inventoried. At least their plans that can be released, available to management here in Woodlands Water.
Yes, sir. And we do plan on making a presentation at the June trustee meeting on the activities that we've undertaken over the years since 2019 in cybersecurity training and vulnerability scans, frequent vulnerability scans. And we'll have a presentation on that topic at the June trustee meeting.
Yeah, okay. I just think that, it's given the fact that this is happening more often and we are potentially susceptible, it really needs to be done. I did a search on Google to look at, the numbers of smaller cities, towns, and even the water company down in Florida that, have been held hostage. So I think it's, this is kind of like one of those things you have to have, right? I guess now to get on an airplane, you probably got to have proof that you don't have COVID, right? So we need to have proof that we did what we should be doing, and somebody else has told us that.
Understood. We plan to give a detailed presentation with consultants at the June meeting.
Great, thank you.
Hopefully it won't be a report saying an 8th grader could have hacked the system and then nothing get done like our Colonial Pipeline people. But I think an annual audit's probably a good idea. And then to rotate those auditors because different people see different things. But thank you. Good suggestion. Any other questions for Jim? All right. Thank you, Jim. And we'll move on to receive the Woodlands Water Trustees report.
Yes, so the trustees report is on page 36. And under GMA 14 update, second paragraph, it says Trustee Norton added that there is a group called StopOurSinking.com, and their sole purpose is to get people to make comments to the LSGCD board. I definitely did say that. But I need to clarify, and some of the other MUDs in their meetings tomorrow might bring this up because I got in a little trouble with the rest of the steering committee of StopOurSinking.com. And the reason why is they said, well, after July 19th, we may still be involved, and it's not just to make comments to Lone Star. Valid point. I didn't intend it for that. What I meant when I said that's our sole purpose is that our sole purpose is to StopOurSinking.com. So on July 20th, we've had our closed town hall meetings with LSGCD. The Stop Our Sinking website will still be up, and we will continue to look for opportunities to, get this problem under control of over pumping from our aquifers. So that's what I meant, or what I should have said, and that's that thing. I wanted to say too, the other ground control districts, groundwater control districts, that sounded like a space age thing, ground control. Let's see, May 26th, Bluebonnet GCD is having their town hall meetings, and Southeast Texas GCD is also pretty soon. And those guys are welcoming of us to make comments. So if you could write a letter to them too, much appreciated. I did send public comments to John Martin and Zach Holland today from Southeast Texas and Bluebonnet. The other thing I wanted to highlight is really exactly what's going on with the San Jacinto Regional Watershed Flood Planning Group. There are about 5 active speaking parts in those meetings, and they have expressed that they have 6 candidates. That means Neil Gaynor plus 5. And we don't know who the plus 5 is. I've reached out to my friends in Kingwood and they say it's not them. So my thought is that it is folks from Cypress Creek area. And I can't believe the drama if after what we have done, which is work for 6 months to get an upper watershed seat, and no one else fought for it. And by that, I mean the township was involved, and Bruce Reeser, Gordy Bunch, Shelley Sekuli Gibbs, Penny Bradshaw, Glenna Sloan, myself, all making public comments to get Neil on there. No one said anything. So this is going to send a really powerful message, really, if Neil Gaynor doesn't get that seat. And I think the next step for us is to go to the Texas Water Development Board. I'm interested if you guys at SJRA know if that board, that seat that Peter Lake vacated, has that been filled?
Yes,
Yes.
It has. By who?
by the governor.
Well,
Abbott sitting in the seat?
Well, he appointed a person. I'd have to research the name.
Okay, it's not updated on their website. So I had heard it, but I didn't see her name.
I forget her name. She was on the board.
Oh, Brooke Pop.
Brooke Pop.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Brooke Pop was moved to chairman.
Okay, so then someone will take Brooke's spot. I see.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's the Kathleen Jackson that led that whole thing. I mean, I went to the town hall meetings 3 years ago, and she was physically in Tomball well before COVID, and she really appointed these folks. And what I got out of the last meeting after they did the San Jacinto Master Drainage Plan report presentation was that they don't like any of the projects that are in that document. And what did that document cost to create, and it took a year to do, because they don't like channelization or something, was what I heard in the meeting. So that's high drama, and it shouldn't be, right? We should really all just be looking for the best BCR, best benefit cost ratio. Oh, and in the trustee report, I want to highlight that there is a lot of support for doing 50-50. I personally haven't heard anyone excited about 65-35, so I just thought I'd let you know that. And I wanted to highlight on page 38 that Trustee Martin suggested that we do a proclamation of appreciation to staff. And I was thinking how much the staff that we interact with often has helped. And guys, I inject myself into a lot of things. I got involved with the Texas Patriot PAC and trying to get them on board with supporting our movement against over production from our aquifers, and Mike Mooney helped me out with that. Maureen and Shelley help all the time. I called them multiple times, and Bob Daly helped with a press release on this regional flood planning group thing. And Jim Stinson is, of course, always there to help and has done a lot of work with fixing the problems over on Eagle Mead, which is near and dear to us in Mud 47. And when I think about all the work that the team did during the storm Uri, the staff that was out doing the work with the bursting pipes and things, how cold it must have been and how they were working overtime, really. So I will be supporting that, but that is on the trustee board agenda for next month. So that's my trustee board summary.
Hey, Laura, one of the things, because there were a number of trustee members who attended with you. Could you just speak 2 minutes or whatever for regarding the presentation to the Democratic Party?
Oh, yeah. That was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was mostly Neil Gaynor, Bob Lux, and I had presentations. My presentation probably wasn't for an audience of just general folks. I was, it was kind of geared towards the Democratic Party. But my presentation was on how to argue with subsidence deniers. And I did the recharge myth. I've had arguments on HoustonChronicle.com with Webb Melder about the recharge myth, that the more you pump, the faster your aquifers recharge, and it keeps up with it. And then the other myth that the Burkeville confining unit is some kind of skeletal structure that keeps the surface of the earth elevated while you pump like crazy from beneath it. And the fact is that the artesian pressure does drop when you pump from the Jasper, and does cause compaction in the aquifer and subsidence at the surface. So that was the gist of mine. Niels was very scientific. He's a PhD in geology. And Bob Lux talked about the alphabet soup of all of the GMA 14 and the LSGCD and the Region H and the TWCA and the TWDB. How far can you go, Laura, with these acronyms, right? So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And speaking of, I'm going to be doing a presentation to the township on Thursday to introduce them to StopOurSinking.com. And I have my props right here. This is a yardstick. You can probably imagine what I'm going to do with that. And this is a ruler.
I could ask.
Where we've been and where we're going, you know what I mean? So 4-page long presentation. I will take that video and upload it to our site and share it with organizations all around. We're doing great at StopOurSinking.com. Thanks.
Sound like a paid spokesman.
Yeah, don't I?
You're right. It's all volunteer.
$150.
Any other questions for Laura? Okay, thank you, Laura. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. I love this stuff. Having a good time.
We will move on to item number 18, receive staff update on benches in the name of Biff Pacone and Arthur Bredehoff.
I unfortunately don't have the exact locations of where these benches would go in Mud 47. I do have firm commitment from the organizer of the bench program that there is a need in the Mud 47, but I don't have the exact location to share with you. And I can work more on that if you'd like.
Okay. You know, let's take a moment. Can we discuss this? I mean, not that we're doing a
Well, I
vote.
definitely think we should, to give Jim direction, because,
Right.
you know, I sympathize, or I agree with the resident Mark Unland's comments today, that this isn't something that we should do as a board. But if we wanted to do it as a charitable thing, like we did with the Rosemary bench, then we could go forward with that. And I guess Jim's already done some work looking at the bench. We know they cost 900 and so on. And we could find a spot, but we do that. And I didn't want the 900 coming from Mud 47 is my point. And it's nothing against, I think, you know, Arthur's on this call, of course. I think very highly of him. He's a wonderful person, and the work that he's doing, the volunteer work with the DSC, is unbelievable. I've worked at the lower level RDRC, and
How ironic if we put the bench up and the DRC came back and said, no, you can't do that bench. But I hear what you're saying, Laura, but I see that it's a benefit to the community. I want it in our district. I walk by Rosemary's bench. Sometimes I even sit on it just because I was there when we dedicated it, right? It's right there, closest park to me. But sometimes there's other people sitting on it, right? 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night. It's a very popular park. And that's the only one that I see, period, throughout the Woodlands and all my walks, right? A bench like that can help, you know, people that can't get around much, or they get tired or whatever. If it's that much, I mean, for me, the cost, like it's never been about that. When Rosemary's bench was done, I wasn't even taking pay from the mud. And it's such a almost insignificant amount that I feel frustrated talking about it, because it is for the community. It's in recognition of Arthur and Biff, but it is for the community and it is for our residents. But if I feel that strongly, I don't mind, you know, it's the plaque, right? That is really, the bench is always going to be for the thing. It's the recognition of the plaque. So if I need to pay for the plaque, I'll pay for the plaque. It's not
Well,
a thing. Go ahead, Paul.
I think I agree with you. I think that we need to acknowledge service in the community, okay, and service by residents in the community. And you know, if it's a combination of some, you know, some of our budget somewhere and you know, contributions by those of us on the board or anybody else, I don't see a problem with that. Today we approved doing some sort of sticker or something so that, you know, we can champion for young people, you know, not throwing, what was it, dog feces down the water sewers. So, you know, frankly, it's, I don't have any problem with it at all. And I think we should go forward with it. And it is a good place to sit. And if you're sitting on Rosemary's bench, you get to argue and not listen to Rosemary. You can argue with the bench. Well, for those of you who didn't serve with Rosemary, you would understand what I just said. She was a wonderful person and a giving person, and she loved an argument.
Well, you know, another thing that I forgot to mention is we went through that Storm Uri and we didn't lose water pressure, right? Our system did great for, you know, and performed well in these circumstances. And those are based on decisions that the staff and Rosemary and Biff and Arthur made, you know, 20 years ago. So like the hope would be that this bench lasts as long as how long they served. You know, 20, 30 years, right? Because Biff was an original board member. So,
Right.
You know, they made a huge impact.
I'd just like to say that I haven't served very long, but I've served in the time that I have. Like I said tonight, I've injected myself in a lot of things and I'm passionate about what I do. I've known Rosemary probably longer than anyone on this board. You may not know, she was a precinct 49 chair, and I took that job after she left. She moved and couldn't continue in that position, but she stayed on Mud 47 board, and I became the precinct chair. I knew her back in the day when she was on the Woodlands Community Association and the Woodlands Association Governance Task Force, and go back that far. When I was running for election, I campaigned for myself, of course, and Rosemary and Biff accused me of violating the 100-foot marker space. And they got Brett Ligon to pursue me. He had a public investigator come to my house. And I had to hire an attorney. Fortunately, he did it pro bono. He agreed to do it without charge. And he gave me a letter that said, Laura, I can't believe I'll go this route on a public meeting, but I was accused of this and I didn't do anything. And I'm a volunteer too. I've served on the Cochran's Crossing Village Association Board, the RDRC, the Woodlands Community Association, and I don't expect a bench. I think that it's a principle. I've talked with other mud directors to see how they feel. There are 50 of us on the Woodland side, and they are not going to do the bench. I don't take well to, well, if you feel that way about it, I'm just saying my opinion. And I don't think that we should spend the funds on a bench. That's all I'm saying, and I am just one vote, and I don't mean it in a mean way or anything like that. I hope I've expressed how I feel and why my vote, if we should call a vote right now, would be no for that. And that's it.
Okay. Well, I don't think we're allowed to do a vote right now. Brian, are we allowed?
This is Brian. No, this is a staff update. There's no action today.
Right. So
well, what about giving Jim direction? Because that's, he has to keep coming back with new news and contact maybe John Powers and stuff. So I'd be open to that for sure.
Open to what, Laura?
To discussing what our direction that we should put Jim on. What trajectory should he be working?
Well, I don't want to waste Jim's time. It sounds like we've got things narrowed down, but not finalized. I wouldn't want him to spend time that would be wasted. So
Right.
we can pause that until we can do a vote for the next time. Okay.
Great,
I thought we had already voted for this, but
No.
maybe not. So we'll
No, we didn't.
bring this up for the next agenda and revisit this before we make our votes. Okay, does anyone else have anything they'd like to add to this discussion? Okay. So that will close out item number 18. And item 19, we already talked about putting a vote on this bench for the next meeting. Any other items that someone would like to add? It looks like we lost Paul. Okay. All right. That just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it won't get added to the next time, so it's okay. So we'll move on to number 20, adjournment. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Here a motion, a second. Laura, do we need a vote or we're just going to call it adjourned? Raise your hand. All right, everyone's raised their hands. Let the record show. We'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thank y'all.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.